Hey everyone, it's Reed. I wouldn't call this a podcast, more of just a thought piece or think piece, maybe. As I was watching football here on Sunday evening and watching the news come across the various social media sites, and was reading a Wall Street Journal article about the idea that Donald Trump's mass deportation plan has already run into a snag, and it comes in the form of the country of Colombia. And so let me set the scene for you. So, as part of its mass deportation plan, the U.S. Air Force dispatched two C 17s from San Diego to Colombia. I'm going to assume Bogota. And as I understand it, they had about 80 undocumented immigrants in each aircraft. Now, the president of Colombia had thought that maybe these would come in as commercial aircraft, and he was prepared for them. When he found out they were military aircraft, he rescinded their landing rights. And he didn't like also the fact that the Colombians on board had been handcuffed as they were boarding the aircraft. And so he said, don't come here, can't land here. Planes turn around, come back, I should say, to the U.S. So in response, Donald Trump announced that he'd place a 25% tariff on Colombian goods, and that would quickly be upped to 50%. So this is there's a lot going on, between California, the Caribbean Sea, Colombia. So let's break it down. Let's start with the logistics. So first and foremost, again, like the C-17 is a gigantic airplane. I actually flew on one several times over the course of my time in government 20 years ago, but they're huge. They're designed to carry one M1 Abrams tank, three Black Hawk helicopters, 103 fully loaded paratroopers. So, like, guys, this is a massive cavern with wings and engines, right? That are, they can go anywhere. Per the Air Force website, it's got a range of 2,400 nautical miles. All right, so remember that number. Per the Google machine, I looked this up, it costs about $25,000 an hour to operate a C-17, okay? And per travel math, it's a 7-hour and 15-minute flight from San Diego to Bogota, again, assuming that's where they were going to go. A distance of 2,900 nautical miles. So even before getting to Colombia, guys, these airplanes probably, and I say probably because I don't know for sure, would have had to refuel in air. So it's not one aircraft or two aircraft, it's potentially three aircraft because now you've got a tanker out there. I assume they had to refuel, but I don't know. But since they didn't land in Colombia, they had to turn around and come back, which means they probably had to refuel on the way home too, right? So now we've got two aircraft at $25,000 an hour, right? With another tanker potentially loitering somewhere over Central America or the Caribbean, maybe the far eastern Pacific, down there near Central and South America. So the math here, 14 and a half flight hours times one is $362,000, right? That would be the there and back. Double that, you're talking $700,000 round trip for somewhere between 80 and 160 humans to be dropped off in Colombia. All right. So, guys, that's a lot of money. It's a lot of time in an airplane. It's a lot of time on an airplane. You've got the air crew. You've got all the ground crew, all of this stuff, right? So just think about the idea that this is a military mission. This is an Air Force mission with all of the things that come along with it. Flight plans, who's commanding the aircraft, who's commanding the squadrons, where are they coming from? So not a small deal. And especially if you're, 3/4 of the way, maybe 90% of the way on your trip to Colombia. And they're like, nope, don't come here. So I got to fly home. All right. So let's move on from that. Let's do the tariffs now. So Trump he loves his tariffs. He thinks that they bring money in for the United States. They do not. In fact, as we're seeing now with this situation with Colombia, I think he really just sees them as punishment for other countries, whether or not that's Canada, whether or not that's Mexico, China, now Colombia, whoever it is, right? So Colombia sends us a bunch of stuff, but a few things in particular. One, they send us a lot of oil. They send us bananas, coffee, and flowers. Okay. Cut flowers, as it were. All right. So I just want to say a few things to some of the tens of millions of Americans who could watch this, and I hope do watch this. One is that if you're a coffee drinker, congratulations. your cup of coffee, your venti cup of Joe is going to go up, right? If Trump comes through on this, his tariffs will increase your trip to Starbucks. It will cost you more money, and it's not cheap now, I know. Second, for you folks who like bananas, if you like them in your smoothies or you're a big peanut butter and banana fan, whatever it is, a bunch of bananas going to get more expensive too. To all those guys out there looking to buy a Valentine's bouquet for your lady, going to be more expensive. Could be twice as expensive, almost twice as expensive, right? 50% more expensive anyway. So now your dozen roses or tulips or whatever it is they grow down there are going to be more expensive. And then there's the oil. And it's not like the oil markets don't love the idea of a quote unquote disruption to jack the price of a barrel of crude. And so we could see higher pump prices, higher gas prices. Congratulations. Thanks, Donald. You were the one who was supposed to make all this stuff cheaper, and now it's not. So let's move on to geopolitics. So the Colombian president said this on Twitter, quote, "You don't like our freedom? Fine. I don't shake hands with white slaveholders. You will never dominate us." You know, now, again, as I said at the top, who knows whether or not Trump will ever actually go through with this. But the point is that if he does, it will cost Americans a lot of money. There's a couple of things I think we can learn from this. One is that it should be a teachable moment, hopefully for the Trump people, but let's not count on it. There's this military saying that I've heard, which is no plan survives first contact with the enemy. Okay, well, Trump had a plan, and it did not survive first contact with a sovereign nation who said, you are not bringing handcuffed migrants and military aircraft to my country. Not going to do it, right? The mass deportation plan didn't last the length of one flight from Southern California to Colombia. That's as long as that plan as they envisioned it lasted. My guess is, like so many things and like so many times at the White House, because you've decided on it, you think it's perfect because you're in the White House. And my guess is, of all the things on their bingo card, the Colombian president, sending the big middle finger from South America was probably not on their list. There's a great movie, guys. You probably saw it, Jurassic Park. And in that movie, there's a character, Ian Malcolm, played brilliantly by Jeff Goldblum. And he has this saying, right? He's a chaos theory expert. He says, chaos theory is the idea that a small change in the initial conditions of a system can produce large and unpredictable effects. All right, guys. Well, in this first week of the Trump administration, the people around him have introduced massive changes to many, many systems. Colombia and Mexico's responses have the potential to echo from the coffee plantation to your local Starbucks or your local coffee shop, and from Bogota to Beijing, where maybe the Colombians decide to look toward China. Maybe they decide to do business with somebody else. I'm sure there are plenty of people who want Colombian coffee. It has been amongst the best in the world, as far as I can remember, from all those commercials when I was on TV when I was a kid. And so I think that's the thing, is that this is one of those ideas that what started as an idea, perhaps years ago, has now been put into motion. And as soon as they put the plan into motion, it didn't go the way it was supposed to, or the way they thought it would go. And now, because of that, and because of Trump's nature, it is now spiraling into a whole bunch of other things. Not just the idea of 80 undocumented migrants going from the United States back to Colombia, but the idea that because Trump chose to do it in such a way that showed the power of the United States, that Colombia, again, a sovereign nation, said, nope, you're not coming here, at least not that way. And Trump's own bravado and the willingness and desire to show how big and tough he could be has backfired. And when things like this backfire, do they redound to his detriment? No. The people around him? No. It will be to you and me. It will be to the people just trying to buy a cup of coffee, just trying to buy flowers for their wife, just trying to fill up their car to get to work. And guys, that's to me the thing that's going on, is that every time they do something like this, they are not tinkering around the edges. They are taking a meat axe to systems that clearly many of them understand, the people around Trump, and are perfectly willing to do this anyway. Trump neither understands them nor cares to, but he's happy for the chaos. But remember, the chaos is always insulated, right? The people that caused it are insulated from it. Anybody who's inside the White House or in the ramparts of power for Donald Trump will be insulated from most of this stuff. You and me, we won't be. The people who are being flown on these airplanes won't be. And so I think it's just a good reminder that here we are getting a week in, and we're already seeing two things. One is that Trump will do things unnecessarily because he wants to. And two, that even here in the United States, if we are still looking for ways to push back on Trump politically and operationally, there still are those people, like the president of Colombia, who say, I'm not going to put up with that. Like the president of Mexico, who said, you want to put 25% tariffs on us? Hey, man, we send a lot more stuff your way than you do our way, right? And that's where reality and Trumpistan come into contact. And what we have seen in the past is when that happens, Trump reacts badly. Unfortunately, when he reacts badly, it goes far worse for the rest of us. Thanks, everybody, for taking a few minutes to listen to my ramblings on what I thought would not happen on a Sunday night, but it's, again, Trump 2.0. As always, gang, you can go to the home front on Apple Podcasts and Spotify to listen to the show there. You can go to my Substack, also called The Homefront, or look me up on Linktree at Reed Galen. As always, everybody, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Guys, we will get through this together. I'm not going to say it's going to be easy and it's not going to be quick, but so long as we continue to explain to people, our friends, and those who maybe voted for Donald Trump, why things are happening and how it's going to affect them, not with our noses in the air or saying nanny, nanny, boo, boo, but just saying, look, gang, here's what this means. I think there's a really good chance that the unraveling of Donald Trump will happen sooner than we think, but it's only if we keep our heads about us. Thanks, everybody.